Lately I've been waking up in the morning at about 4, and one of the things I was thinking about this morning was how we were all a puzzle, one puzzle. Each of us would be a piece in that puzzle, and that's why it's so important to be yourself. Because otherwise, if you're not yourself, the puzzle's going to be missing a piece somewhere. And I guess I was thinking about this because today is the day that they do the Pride Parade downtown, and I was planning on going with my cousins, and I did, and it was fun. It's so hard to be ourselves sometimes. I tend to try to be who I think my partner wants me to be, and this started really early on for me, and probably because when I was just starting to realize who I was when I was 14 or 15 years old, I was just finding my way in the world, and I had so much energy and enthusiasm, and I was kind of a loud person, and I was always talking and laughing, and I loved people, and I had this group of friends that I had met at school, and we would hang out every day and do things on weekends. I was kind of a tomboy, so they'd bring me motorbike riding or skiing in the winter, and we'd wear funky running shoes. I was into punk rock, so I put pins in my ears, and I wasn't really a girly girl, so I was more into music. I was the go-to person in our crowd who was into music and that kind of thing, and I was always dancing. I remember when I discovered AC/DC, early AC/DC, I would play air guitar all the time at party. I mean, they would do this like all the time, in a hallway at school or something, and so my nickname was Angus. Anyway, yeah, that was kind of I was just having fun and being myself, and I wasn't worried about whether I was cool or anybody liked me. My friends liked me, and that's all that mattered. And then I kind of got sidetracked, and when I was 16, I fell for this guy who was older and so much above me. I perceived that he was so much above me because he was he was just so much more mature, and he was so cute, and he was so popular with the cool crowd. I wasn't in the cool crowd. I was in the kind of crazy crowd. I think we called ourselves geeks and weirdos or something. So he was in the cool crowd, and all of a sudden he started paying attention to me. So when he was around, I would get really quiet because I knew his ex-girlfriend was extremely quiet. So I would try to be like her. I remember trying to be like her, even parting my hair the way she parted her hair. All of a sudden I started to dress differently. I started to dress more conservatively. I got my hair done where those girls got their hair done. And every time I was around him, I would just fold my hands and I would be quiet. And then I remember saying to myself, okay, I have to be more like her. Just be quiet, be quiet. And then all of a sudden something would happen. I go, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And then I'd say, oh, be quiet. I don't know how successful I was in that, but I was definitely a toned down version of myself. And I certainly didn't express opinions, or I wasn't as silly. It even went so far, and this is something that I've regretted ever since. I was only 16, but one time I was in his car, and he had a 66 Corvette, so it was uber cool, right? And I saw one of my friends on the side of the road, a couple of them actually, and I waved like crazy because here I was in this beautiful car and with this cool guy, and he turned to me and said, do you mind not waving to them when you're with me, please? And so I didn't, and I didn't hang out with them anymore much at all, and what a mistake that was. And I knew it at the time that it wasn't right. If that's what my boyfriend wanted, then that's what I was going to do, because he was so much more, cool than I was. And if I wanted to hang out with him, that's what I had to do. That's kind of how I perceived it. not only is it show that I didn't have much of a backbone, but I also didn't have the confidence in myself, and I didn't think I or my friends were worthy, really, when you come right down to it. So I took what was my puzzle piece, and I was very happy being my puzzle piece, and I blunted a bit off here, and I knocked a corner off there, and I tried to squeeze myself into this shape that wasn't really right for me. And what ended up happening was that I remember feeling like I was so many different people, depending on who I was with. I felt lonely a lot. I felt that my boyfriend didn't really know who I was, and that, so besides feeling inauthentic, I felt lonely. As I got older and, grew up, and got more confident in myself and tried to be a little bit more, do what I wanted to do and that kind of thing, he wouldn't like it and I'd get resentful over it. So I often tell the story of the blue shoes. He must have felt ripped off too, in the sense that I wasn't really who I pretended to be when he first met me. He had expected one thing, but I was really another. So he probably felt angry and ripped off over that as well. So the blue shoes thing was, once I had moved to Vancouver and I was living down there, and of course I was able to wear and do whatever I want. I was free. We had split up and I left him and gone down to Vancouver to work at Expo, and I was wearing these funky big chunky sweaters. I had a yellow tam and I had these weird blue shoes, and they were faux leather because I couldn't afford real leather anyway, and they had like a wrap over one toe and another that came over the other side. Not really that big a deal, but they were weird. So fast forward 15, 20 years, and we're living in a very small town, and we get invited out somewhere. And it's the very first time meeting these people, the neighbors and things, and it's kind of a gathering over there. And we're getting ready to go, and I'm out on the porch, and I see the blue shoes, and I thought, these are new people. I'm putting on my blue shoes, man. I'm wearing these blue shoes. And my husband came out, and he looked down at my feet, and he said, "You're wearing those?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay." Turned around, went back in the house, and that was it. So I stood there on the porch for a minute or two, and for some reason, I knew it was a defining moment, and I just thought, you know what? We hardly ever go out. I love gatherings. I'm going. So I went. And you know what? When I got there, there were so many people there that everybody just threw their shoes, took their shoes off outside, kind of on this little deck area. And I went in with soggy feet anyways. So nobody saw my feet. So I got in there, and everybody's talking, I'm talking and stuff, introduced myself and whatnot. And they're like, "Okay, so where is he? Where's your husband?" And I was going to lie, and then I thought, no. And I just said, "Well, he didn't come." And they said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, it was on account of my shoes, actually. He didn't like my shoes." And they were like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." And so everybody filed out to have a look at these shoes that were so offensive. And they looked, and the general consensus was, yeah, they're weird, and they're not actually that nice. But they all said, "Who cares what you were wearing on your feet? Like, that wouldn't have stopped me from going to a party." Whatever, But it was kind of a funny thing, and we all laughed and whatnot. So, and I never actually spoke to him about that again. Like, we would not have taken it well, put it that way, if I had brought that up. But that's the kind of inflexibility that made it really hard for me to be the puzzle piece that I'm supposed to be. It was pretty tough, and you can imagine when you're young and you grow up and you just it was tough. So fast forward to now, I'm finally able to do and be who I want and wear the weirdest shoes I want. And the irony of the whole thing is I'm actually pretty conservative. So for the first couple years that I was single, you bet, I wore weird stuff, oversized dresses with my, Doc Martens, and I just totally did what I wanted and loved it. Listened to music, crazy music that he would never want me to put on, and I kind of got it all out of my system. And after a couple years now, I'm more who he actually probably wanted. Anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah, that's the irony of the whole situation. But when we go and we celebrate everybody at the Pride Parade, and there's people wearing, the best costume I saw was this guy dressed, the only description I have for it is a scaly fish suit, I would say, like an iridescent sort of a fish scale suit. And I thought, wow, buddy. I said to him, you look awesome. And yeah, and here's to your fish suit, Wear what you want to wear, do what you want to do, be who you are, because only you can be that special piece that you are. Until next time.